Yeah, yeah. It was, and when they realized that there was actually I call it my Amnesty International moment. They had already. The Justice Department had already petitioned to forcibly drug me, and I was waiting for a decision. And one morning, I was locked up in prison at this point. I had been held on Carswell Air Force Base for 8 months, and then I was moved to the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York for 4 months. And one morning, at 5:30 in the morning, the guard wakes me up, he shakes me, he said, "You're going to court today." And I'm like weeping. I'm thinking that they've got the decision and they're going to like send me back to Carswell to be drugged, and I'm hysterical. I was absolutely hysterical. And I get into the courtroom, and I'm in a holding cage that's about the size of this table. And they come in, my attorney comes in, and he says, "Oh my God, someone has started a blog on your case, and people are writing your judge. They're writing Judge Mukasey. You got to tell your friend to stop doing this." I was like, "Never, no, no way." And I was like, "We are," and literally I grabbed the bars. I was like, "We are never going to stop. We are going to fight to defend this Constitution. You are breaking the law. And we are never going to shut up until this is done. You can tell that crooked prosecutor that he can just go to hell, because we're going to keep talking until, you're never going to shut me up now." This was a mistake. This was a huge mistake that they did this to me. And we went in, and the judge was like, so. And at that point, Jay had published psych records. After my arrest, I had been ordered to have this actually saved me. I had been ordered to attend weekly psychology meetings. I had never had any psychological problems, and I had a year's worth of documentation saying that I suffered no mental illness, no depression, no psychosis, no mania, nothing, no mood disturbances. And these are in the back of my book, so you can actually look at this stuff for yourself, and you can see the papers with your own eyes, and you can read them. And the judge was like, "Well, this is extraordinary. You're telling me this woman is incompetent and she's suffering from this grave mental illness, and yet she has all these records which are on the bloody internet. Why are these papers not in my courtroom?" And the judge was like, "This is just not going to happen." And at that point, I was saved, because the judge was like, "This woman is not cooperative." If I had been cooperative, they would have done it. If I had been passive, they would have done it. But I mean, I'm a fighter, and they still wouldn't give me a hearing. And I mean, I know how to fight. I'm an activist and an asset. Believe me, I know how to fight. And it was like the Patriot Act was so hideous, so big, so powerful, that there was nothing that they were going to let it break through. But Judge Mukasey also did the financial case on the 9/11, the insurance claims for 9/11. For Larry Silverstein, who went to his synagogue. They both attend the same synagogue. Yeah. Cozy. Very cozy.
Did Muhammad Atta willingly sacrifice himself, or did he know what was going to happen to him?
I do not know. I do not know. See, I wonder about all these things, because I wonder if they thought that it was like a practice, or if they thought, this was just like, I do not know the answer to that. It's like, it's fascinating to think what they must have thought.
There were foreign newspapers that reported that many of the hijackers are still alive.
Yes.
I think 6 or 7 of them were reported. One is a pilot for the Saudi Arabian Airlines. I believe one lives in Los Angeles. So there was all this, and then there was the report
That's true.
Mohammed, yeah. So it doesn't make sense that there were these hijackers that hijacked planes. I mean, obviously something is wrong with this story.
Yeah.
If these people are still alive.
I wonder though if it was those. Yeah. I don't have as an asset. This may frustrate. This is probably going to frustrate you. I'm trained to stop where it's very much compartmentalized, and there are certain things that I know from my own direct personal experience that I can tell you, and then there are other things that I'm taught just to draw a line. And it may drive you crazy, but there are some things that I cannot answer because I don't know. And as an asset, I'm told to stop, and always to distinguish what I actually know from what I don't know. And that's one of the things I don't know. Sorry. But I do believe there were hijackings. But
To hold on to the story that there were hijackings.
well,
And
I
then
do
have the
believe.
hijackers alive. I don't know.
Well,
there's
but
something-
we don't necessarily know who the hijackers
We
were.
also have other information that some of the serial numbers of the planes were located several years later as the planes are still in existence. So there's a lot of like really
Very
sketchy,
strange.
Very strange. There's a lot of strange. And then
Yeah,
that
yeah.
silly plane that went down in Pennsylvania with no plane parts.
That was
No
shot
plane
down.
parts anywhere.
There was a plane that was shot down, and I know that there was a pilot who shot down one of the airplanes, and he is locked up in prison in Florida right now.
What's his name?
I don't know. I could get it for you. I will get it for you. I'm sorry. I've been told his name before, and I'm actually doing a radio interview with Michael Herzog tomorrow, who's the one who told me about the guy. And I will get that information, and I will pass it to our friend over here, and we'll get that to you. Because he needs help. The last I heard, he was still in. It could be that I hope he's been released. But the last, and he may have been released by now, but the last I heard he was still in prison, and if he is still in prison, it'd be awfully nice if you guys could help him.
Who's to gain, who's to lose? You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I believe, I mean, the tragedy was that it was so, before 9/11 ever happened, they already knew about this peace framework, and they already knew that they could have the United States would receive no punishments at all or no punishments. They would not face any problems because of the years of support for the sanctions. The Iraqis wanted the sanctions off so badly that they were going to give the United States everything that they could have wanted. So this is even going on before 9/11 happens. And they were going to give them 1 million American-made automobiles every year. Telecommunications, that would be satellites, phone, TV, the CIA could have been, snooping through all the Middle East phone conversations. It was crazy what they lost. Healthcare, hospital equipment, pharmaceuticals, just on and on. Just amazing things.
So you're tying that
Oil.
into corporatism?
Yeah, they could have had everything, even oil. And the only group that wasn't going to benefit was the military-industrial complex. Because this would have been peace. This would have been a very prosperous peace. Believe me, the CIA was driving a hard bargain. Anything that we could think to add, and I have to say, again, I'm anti-sanctions, so I know that a lot of people would say, well, that's not fair to do to the Iraqis, and I agree with you. I agree with you. But it was what the CIA wanted, and they were going to have every single thing that they could think to get. And they wanted, and at the same time, we all knew that it would have to be tremendous to appease George Bush, because he was out for, the Daddy Bush fantasy, this delusion. It was a delusion. But the one group that was not going to benefit was the military-industrial complex. And they were going to be the big losers in this whole thing. They were not going to be able to have their wars. They were not going to be able to sell their military weapons systems. The $400 billion, we wouldn't need all for this equipment or that equipment. They wouldn't need any of it. And so they were the losers, and they were just too powerful.
Okay, this isn't actually a question, but a brief comment.
Okay.
We were talking about the Pennsylvania Flight 93 alleged crash.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that anyone can claim to have, any pilot could claim to have shot down the airliner. That's easy to claim something like that, but did it happen? And I just want to point out that not only was there no plane debris at the alleged crash site, but neither was there a debris field anywhere else. And we know from incidents like Lockerbie that when a plane blows over land, it leaves a debris field. But there was no debris field to be shown.
Well, it's also the Pentagon. It's also the Pentagon. I do not believe that the Pentagon was hit by an airplane. I mean, they're saying that all that debris suddenly was magically just removed. There was no airplane there either. So it's, you know, there's still a lot of questions about 9/11 that I cannot answer for you, and I'm sorry. I wish you know, these are good questions you're asking. And it's not like I'm trying to blow you off. There's just some things I don't know. But hopefully I'm going to give you enough new information that you'll be able to, like, put some more pieces of it together.
You mentioned your compartmentalized structure of the agency.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty well understood how one person can be sitting here working on a project, the next person's there, and they can't, you know, they're not allowed to really look at what the other one's doing.
Yes.
In light of that, I think you're probably aware that it's been documented there were somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 military drills running on 9/11.
Yes.
It's absolutely unprecedented. Not only that,
September 10th to 12th.
not only that, there was one drill that was specifically on a hijacking that was exactly the scenario that we're told transpired. And it's you've probably studied Webster Griffin Tarpley's analysis of this 9/11 synthetic terror made in USA. How he breaks this down very convincingly, I believe, that the operation was conduited through the drills. And certain people were doing certain things and probably likely didn't even know that they were involved in an operation this big.
Yes.
And couldn't share information because of this compartmentalization. And I'm just wondering if you've had an opportunity to talk after all of your ordeal with anybody else who was able to confirm any of this.
Well, I will tell you that the 9/11 conspiracy is based on something called Project Bojinka. And are you all familiar with Project Bojinka? Okay, Bojinka was designed by Ramzi Youssef, who was the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center attack. And he conceived that in his grand scheme, 11 airplanes would be hijacked and would strike different targets all over the United States. The World Trade Center would be one, and then they would hit the White House, they'd hit the Justice Department, they'd also hit like Chicago, they'd hit Los Angeles, and throughout the whole country there'd be strikes. And the military discovered this when they found, or the CIA discovered this when they arrested Ramzi Youssef in the Philippines in 1995, and they found the blueprint for this 9/11, what became the 9/11 attack, on his computer. Okay, and he called it Project Bojinka. And at that point, the military began to run simulated counter strategies for what you would do if there was an airplane hijacking scenario that was attacking various targets throughout the United States. And one of the targets was the Pentagon. And then the Pentagon said it was too outrageous that nobody would actually attack the Pentagon this way, so maybe they should drop the Pentagon scenario, so they did. But even though they had rehearsed Project Bojinka, on 9/11, on September 10th through September 12th, NORAD was on high alert doing military exercises because allegedly the former Soviet Union, the Russians, were doing their military exercises, so we timed our military exercises allegedly to theirs. And they were supposed to be on heightened alert just in the course of practice. They were supposed to be on heightened alert for any invasion of sovereignty of airspace, sovereign airspace, on those dates. And yet, even though the military was on high alert, they took no action when the airplanes were hijacked, and they didn't scramble. They didn't do any. They broke all of their own protocols.
But weren't they mostly sent up in directions away from the
There you
eastern
go.
seaboard?
Yeah. Yes. And they sent one jet. They turned one jet around and sent it after one fighter to go track down.
They were already on drills and exercises that had already taken them out and basically left the eastern seaboard.
Yes.
independent.
Yes.